off the ball. Kelly's a great facilitator. I think I wouldn't be the only person that's ever coached Kelly that would say that there's moments where you wish he would shoot more. He's a very good shooter, but his nature is to move the ball and to get his teammates involved. So um, I think he just has a really unique ability to get the ball in a variety of spots on the offensive end, both in sort of called structured actions as well as just flashing to the ball when the play breaks down. Um, and he's made a lot of really good decisions for us. Obviously, when he plays at the five, it changes the spacing a lot because teams have to respect him on the perimeter with the way that he shoots the ball. It opens up the floor for us a lot. So, um, yeah, KO's a heck of a player offensively. He's got a pretty big skill set, so we're trying to lean into that.
If I can follow up on that, on the court and off the court, he seems like he enjoys this profession more than most guys, maybe the most of anyone I've ever seen. Do you have any thoughts on why or what allows him to not be seemingly impacted by any of the burdens of this?
I don't know. I mean, he's snapback Kelly. I mean, he's wearing a backwards hat all day, every day. He wears a backwards hat during practice. Kelly, I think, just kind of enjoys his life. It's not just a profession. He works really hard. He's a really easygoing person. I have not come across anybody that doesn't really like KO. I think he's one of the more likable guys in the NBA. I think at the basketball part of it, like he just loves to play. I mean, if you guys are when you guys are there post practice, I mean, Kelly will play one on one with anybody. He wants to play one on two, 3-on-3. He tries to get himself in the off day runs. Every off day, he asks if he can play. Um, I think Kelly is, when it comes down to it, like he's just a hooper. He loves basketball and loves to play, which I think makes it really easy for him to enjoy this profession.
What's it like for you hearing about different injuries and illnesses? Like in my mind, you're like sitting trying to make a plan. It's like, well, Lowry's out. Well, Lowry's back. And Jordan's out. And Camp's back. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then it's like, John's sick. Well, O'Mary's sick. And so is Taylor. And
Yeah.
it's just like, how do you make a plan when that's happening every day?
I mean, I think a big part of this job is always you have to be flexible. And that's not just when things are going poorly from a health standpoint. I think we've talked about flexibility in terms of in the middle of a game. If you see something going on that isn't going great, you need to be willing to abandon your plan and change your mind. It's good to have a plan. It's good to have, a structure that you want to lean into. But I think, this job is always testing your flexibility and your ability to think on your feet. Our medical director thinks that I don't like him very much right now. He has a tough job because he seemingly only delivers bad news. But that's just the nature of his role. It's tough. I've said this a bunch, but like every team goes through this at some point during the season. We're just having our moment now, and the illness piece adds to it. Ankle sprains and things like that will always happen in basketball. But when you have sickness going through the team, you're almost just kind of dreading the next day. You're like waiting for the next person to go down. But there's nothing really to do about it. Like I said before last game, like complaining is not a strategy, and so we need to just kind of roll with it.
Kind of speaking of that, you talked earlier in the season about excuses and not using them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And last night's win, or I guess the Portland win, was a big example of like you guys get in late, it's back to back, you guys don't have anyone healthy. Is that a point something you can point to and say, hey, we can succeed despite no matter what happens?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the team is growing in that sense in terms of understanding what parts they can control and what parts they can't. Those factors you just mentioned about the flight and all those things and people being injured, like it just is what it is. There's no reason for us to waste any of our energy talking about it or worried about that. It's about, kind of the task at hand and everybody flipping their mindset a little bit to, well, all you guys want to play more, and here's an opportunity to play more and go out there and do what we want to do. I think the team, like their camaraderie, their togetherness, these last couple of games has been noticeable. It's obviously noticeable for me because I'm in the locker room and I'm on the bench with them, but I think it's noticeable to everybody that watches our team play, just the way they're playing, how it looks and feels. It has nothing to do with shots going in. It's not like we've necessarily shot the ball great the last 2 games, but the way the ball is moving around and how connected the group feels on both ends of the floor is for sure noticeable.
What's the evolution of Colin's decision-making been like? Because it feels like it's getting to a great place.
Yeah, Colin's been doing a lot of work on it. I mean, it's a credit to him. It's a credit to Evan Brads, who runs our player development program. Scott Morrison, who's one of our assistants. They've been doing some, a lot of pick and roll work with a lot of our players. Trying to help their decision making. I mean, you think about it like training quarterbacks in football. I mean, you're trying to teach them what the reads are, what they're even looking for. And I think Colin has taken all that to heart. He and Walker have a pretty good synergy going right now. Colin is somebody who is always pushing the envelope with his speed, and I think he's made a noticeable adjustment recently of almost slowing down a little bit in pick and roll, which has helped him make cleaner decisions. So yeah, it's a credit to Colin and our coaching staff. Like, those guys are doing a lot of work with our players and trying to help them understand what they're looking at on the floor. And it always makes you feel good when you see the carryover happen in a game. I know Colin feels good about it. And it obviously helps players like Walker on our team who need good decisions by our guards for them to be successful.
Coach, you answered half my question, but I was going to put THT and Colin in the same question, because we see the team a lot, even coming out of last year. We've seen kind of an evolution with everything going on, the wins, the losses, the sicknesses, the injuries. It seems like those two are starting to evolve into the kind of players that you kind of wanted to see in your system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they have a big responsibility. I'm hard on the guards. I'm hard on them in terms of their decision making. I think Talon and Colin have both made a noticeable improvement in terms of their shot selection. I recognize that the game's not perfect, and there's always going to be a couple shots that are taken every night that don't quite make sense to the coach, but they're out there on the floor and things are happening fast. But I think we're seeing less of those shots. I think Talon right now has the highest percentage of passing on our team when he gets in the paint, and that was not the case last year. So I think they're both making noticeable improvements from where they started. Are they where they want to be or where we want them to be yet? No, like, there's still work to be done, but those two have put a lot of work in, and those two take coaching very well. Like, they let me coach them hard. They let our staff coach them hard. And then I get a kick out of their dynamic between the two of them. I mean, they argue like brothers when they're on the bench. It's really funny. I come back to the timeouts frequently and hear them going back and forth in a spirited, like, healthy way about whatever's going on the court. But, those two they've both dealt with ups and downs in terms of their role since I got this job and since they got to Utah. Sometimes playing more, sometimes playing less, sometimes starting, sometimes coming off the bench, every now and then getting a DNP. And they've just rolled with it and continue to try to get better.
Coach Market bounced back, I thought, really well after missing 8. Just evaluate the 23 that he had, and then the off day limitations tonight, or is it a green light?
We're still going to obviously monitor Lowry. We need to make sure that he's fully healthy before we just unleash him, or I guess in theory unleash me, where I don't think about his minutes and just play him as much as we see fit. He felt good after the last game, which is the biggest thing for us, is that he felt good about his body. The 23 points, I mean, it was the Lowry that we all know. Unbelievable shooter, can score in a variety of ways. I think it was nice to see him play downhill a little bit. You're always a little bit concerned when guys come back and they have a hamstring injury that they're going to play it safe and kind of live on the perimeter and shoot a bunch of jump shots. So I think to see him turn the corner a few times, I think he had 2 dunks in the game. That makes me feel good that it seems like while he's playing, he's not thinking about it, which is a big hurdle you got to get over. So yeah, we'll monitor his minutes tonight, similar to the last game, and try to get him out of tonight healthy.
Thanks.
Thank you.